Students, here in this video I will explain about the transfer of heat. What are the different ways in which heat is transferred? That one we'll discuss. This transfer of heat, as we know that in our surroundings or in the nature, heat is transferred from hotter area to the colder area, always. From hotter area to the colder area. It may be within the same object, or it may be in between the different object, or it may be in the place also. So heat always move or transfer from hotter area to the colder area. There are three different ways in which heat is transferred. That I will give an example. What it may be. Suppose a teacher in a class wants to hand over a book to a student who is sitting in the last bench. Suppose a teacher wants to hand over a book to a student who is sitting in the last bench. That book the teacher can give to a student who is sitting in the first bench. Then that student can pass on the book to the next bench, and again it will go on like that, and ultimately the book will reach up to that last to the students who is sitting in the last bench. This is one way. The other way is I can myself go and give the book to that student in the last bench. In that way also it can be done. The third way is from my place itself I can throw the book directly to that students. So in these three ways I can hand over the book to that students. In the same way the heat is transferred in this way itself. So the first one, when that book I have handed over it to the first bench student, then to the next second bench student, in that way in terms of heat we call it conduction. Then the second one, that I myself had gone there and hand over that book, and that one we call it convection. This is in terms of transfer of heat. Then the third one, that book that I have directly thrown to him, that is just like a radiation. This one we call it radiation. So in case of conduction, what it happens, without the movement of the molecules of that object, suppose this object, without the movement of the particles or molecules of this object, the heat is transferred. That one is conduction. Like no one is moving, no student is moving, or I myself has not moved, it is just going on passing from one student to the other student. In that way, in this object, from one particle to the other particle, without actually moving the particles or without actually moving the students, just it is passing from one student to the other student. In the same way, heat is transferred from one particle to the nearby particle, and then to the nearby particle. It is transferred in that way from hot area to the cool area. This is called conduction. In case of convection, just like that, I myself have gone directly to that student and hand over that book to him. In the same way, the particles from here, it moves up to here. Generally this takes place in fluid like air and water. The particles of that substance itself moves from hotter area to the colder area. The particle itself, that one it is convection. The other one is radiation. The radiation is that the book that I have thrown directly to that student, that is radiation. So in transfer of heat, that heat is directly transferred from that hotter area to the colder area where no medium is there. It may not be any medium. Example is the heat or the sunlight that is coming from the sun and reaching the earth. There is a vacuum. So no movement of the particle is there. Neither there is no particles involved. Like when I am throwing that book, neither I have gone there, neither I have handed over to the student, then the students are passing over it. We have not done. Directly I have thrown that book to him. In the same way, the heat is directly transferred to that colder area, and this one we call it radiation. So today in this video I will discuss about a conduction, a convection and radiation. We will go on discussing in the next videos. So conduction. Conduction, it is a process of transfer of heat. It is a process of transfer of heat from hotter area to the colder area without actual movement of the particles. Without actual movement of the particles. You can take reference of the book, page 33. In page 33, in the first column, it is written in bold letter. That one you can underline it. The conduction is the process of transfer of heat in a body from the hotter end to the colder end without actual movement of the molecules. Just like, suppose this is a metal rod, take it an iron rod of this much length, hold it at one end and the other end you put it in the fire. After some time you will feel the hot. It is because that heat is transferred from one end to the other end through that particles, from one particle to the next particle and then to the next particle and then to the next particle. Ultimately it will reach this end and you will feel the heat. So this type of transfer of heat within a, mainly it is solid, that is called a conductor. There are some conditions, there are mainly two conditions for the conductions of heat to be taken. Number one is it should be in contact to each other. Like in this iron rod, the particles are in contact. It is within the same object. So within the same object, particles are in contact. But transfer of heat also takes place from one object to the other object by conduction. But in that case, it should touch each other. Suppose this is a hot object and this is a cold object. When we touch it, then this heat will flow from this hotter object to the colder object. If it touches it, that is conduction. But if it is not touched and if heat is transferring, that is not conduction. So the condition is that the objects should touch each other. The second condition is conductions of heat or flow of heat takes place when there is a temperature difference or when the heat content in that object are different. As I told you, when this is hot and this is cold, from hot to cold it will flow. There is a difference in temperature. So there should be a difference in temperature for the conductions of heat to be taken place. So these are the two conditions that is necessary for conductions of heat. There are various objects in our nature. Some object, it is a good conductor, we call it a good conductor, and second type, we call it a bad conductor. As I told you, in that iron rod, take a same object, in that iron rod, when the heat is traveling from one end to the other end, that one we call it a good conductor because heat is conducting it by the particles from one end to the other end. But this does not take place in all the objects. Like this pen, this is made up of plastics, and this plastics, it is a bad conductor. It is because when I hold this pen at one end and put the other end in the fire, even though it is burning, I will not feel the heat. I may feel it, but that heat is coming from this air, not through this plastic body. It is because this plastic body, it is a bad conductor. But in case of that iron rod, it is a good conductor. So within the body, heat will come by conduction from particle to particle and then to the next particle. So there are two types of material. One is a good conductor which conducts heat, and the other one is a bad conductor which does not conduct heat. Example is the metal. Any metal is a good conductor. Take it an iron rod or take it an silver or take it say aluminum. These are metal and it conducts heat. Non-conductor or a bad conductor, it is a plastic or it may be wood also. So these are some bad conductor. For this definition also, it is there in the book that you can take help from this page 34. about the good conductor and bad conductor. Next come to these uses of good conductor, where it is used, about the good conductor. Common example like say our utensils that we use in the kitchen. Take it example, a pressure cooker. The pressure cooker, it is made up of some aluminum metal because it is a good conductor. We can use a copper vessel also. We use like say aluminum vessels is most commonly, or we can use other type of metal container also. There it is used. Ultimately in the kitchen for cooking purpose, various utensils are used, and all these utensils are a good conductor. So good conductor are used there. Then come to these uses of bad conductor. Bad conductor are used as insulator. The most common example everywhere we can see the wire. That wire on the covering, it is a plastic. Of course it is not about the heat, but it is the electrical one. Just to get the idea about it, I am saying that wire outer covering is a plastic, inside the metallic wire is there, because that is a bad conductor of electricity. In the same way, like for heat also, these bad conductors are used. So here the examples are given like insulating handles. Insulating handles means in that pressure cooker itself, you take it, the handle is made up of plastics. But you imagine when that plastic is not there, we cannot directly touch the metal. So some plastics are used so that we can touch it, because heat cannot be transferred through that plastics. So the plastic is a poor conductor of heat, and that plastic we are using there. The second use it is given, false ceiling. The false ceilings are there. We use false ceiling because when the roof is heated and that heat does not pass through that ceiling, if that ceiling is not there, then we feel the heat directly from that tin roof. But if ceiling is there, then we don't feel the heat directly. It is because it does not conduct heat, that false ceiling. The next is about woolen garments. Woolen garments that we use during winter. We use woolen garment because that is a bad conductor of heat. It is bad conductor of heat. It is because in our surrounding environment it is cool. Whatever heat it is produced from our body, it is trapped by that woolen cloth and we feel warm. Even the blanket that we use, that is a bad conductor of heat. Then igloos are there. These igloos, you must be knowing that in the ice it is made up of ice, a house made up of ice, that is also a bad conductor. Then double walls. Double walls like in a thermoflux it is used. This double wall in a thermoflux it is used, and doors of refrigerators or the walls of the refrigerators are made up of double wall. When a double wall is made and inside air is there, since air is a bad conductor, then heat cannot pass. Maybe the cool will remain cool and the hot will remain hot. Then the next is about the gunny bag. The gunny bag is also a bad conductor of heat. You must have seen where gunny bag used for the bad conductors of heat. Like example here it is given. Say ice. That ice, if we keep it under room temperature, it will start melting. And what we do is we cover the ice with this gunny bag. Then it will not melt. It is because the outside heat cannot pass through that gunny bag. It will not reach the ice. So that ice we can keep it for longer period of time without melting. So this is the use of this bad conductor of gunny bag. So here I have mentioned the various uses of these bad conductors, as well as the uses of good conductors, as well as what is conduction, what is conductor, and what is good conductor, what is bad conductor, and their uses. Okay, in the next video I will explain about this convection.